Ciao everyone and welcome back to a new episode of Learn Italian with Song. Specifically today we are going to talk about Minuetto by Mia Martini. We are talking about a song that comes from the Italian past because this song was released in 1973. So we are talking about some time ago. So, as usual, let's start from the translation of the title. Minuetto is, in fact, quite literally translated in English, that took from Italian, in fact, and translated it as minuet. But the thing is, this actually comes from a French word, and in fact it indicates like minuetto or minuet is a dance originated in France. The name comes from pas minute, which in French means small step, since the dance was characterized by these minute steps. Okay, so like very small steps composing the dance. Now, why specifically this very specific dance reference? Is this a song about France, about dance? Not really. It is a metaphor. In fact, if we think about this type of dance, we think about a dance that it is quite repetitive, a little bit like a valzer, where you have a set of steps and you basically repeat them in circle. So, symbolically, this metaphor hints at the recurring push and pull of the toxic relationship that is described in the song. So we are going to see once again, because at this point on this channel is like given for granted that at certain point in the week we are going to talk about toxic relationship. Time changes, the themes of the song, at least in Italy, do not. Incredibly so. Maybe we have a problem. Perhaps, perchance, we are going to talk about it in a discussion. So, but why, once again, this dance? Because these push and pull, this emotionally destructive relationship, it is described in an elegant way, hinting exactly at the dance. So, a couple of notes also concerning the lyrics. Minuetto was born after the attempts of Maurizio Piccoli and Bruno Lauzi, who had tried in vain to create a convincing draft. It was therefore decided to contact Franco Califano. We already mentioned this artist, this composer, lyrics-wise, so probably better this writer, from Rome, very famous, who, drawing inspiration from the latest sentimental events of Mia Martini herself, because let's remember, Mia Martini, at the beginning of her career, was interpreting, just like an actor, her songs. In Italy, it was quite common back in the days. Nowadays, it is more common to write at least in a small part your songs. Back in the days was, in fact, Massimo Ranieri is a good example of this. Massimo Ranieri still nowadays has someone writing for him the songs, and he, just like the actor, the theater actor he is, he interprets them, he plays them, he acts them. So used to do Mia Martini before before dedicating part of her career to writing herself her songs. So, as we were saying, she had to interpret this song. And this song was adjusted by Franco Califano. Now, how can you make these songs and performance like this work? Of course, you need a actor or an actress, because yes, they are singing, but as I was explaining, it is an act. It is like a play, okay, a theater play. But also, if you have a writer either taking notes from the artist who is going to perform the song, or if they try to adapt it to the person, so like writing and adjusting the song, having in mind the singer who is going to perform it, of course, this worked better. Mia Martini had a very sad life. She got caught in several difficult relationships. And in fact, that's why she was able to perform this song in such a good way that made this song famous. Because she sort of lived what she was singing. And in fact, Franco Califano managed to soon her a timeless success. A success also due to an arrangement of excellent level. Of course, not only Mia Martini did a great job and Franco Califano adapted very well the song to Mia Martini, but generally the song is very high level, supporting the complex score of Baldan Bembo, in which different musical atmospheres can be identified. In fact, the reason why this song works, I'm not judging myself because I am not an expert music-wise. I focus more on the lyrics, as you well know, but it is recognized the fact that musically, not only the lyrics, but also the music transmit very well what the lyrics are saying. That's why it works well, because even if you don't really understand what Mia Martini is singing, the performance plus how the song is built can transmit very well the meaning of the song, even if you don't understand the lyrics. So, we'll keep going and delve more in the life of Mia Martini in a discussion, but now let's focus on the lyrics. The lyrics, in fact, are quite long. With modern pop songs, we are used to verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. Here it is more like a ballad, so longer. And in fact, the song, if I remember correctly, lasts like around 4 minutes or so. So we have a first verse, a chorus, a bridge towards the second verse. The second verse, a variation of the chorus, another bridge, the third verse, and the outro. So very rich in lyrics. And speaking of which, let's go and start analyzing the lyrics. So, we start with the first verse. È un'incognita ogni sera mia. It's an unknown every night of mine. Un'attesa pari a un'agonia. A wait equal to agony. That is like l'agony. Troppe volte vorrei dirti no. Too many times I would like to tell you no. E poi ti vedo. E tanta forza non ce l'ho. And then I see you and I don't have much strength. Il mio cuore si ribella a te. My heart rebels against you. Ma il mio corpo no. But my body doesn't. Le mani tue, strumenti su di me. Your hands, implied, are instruments on me. Che dirigi da maestro esperto quale sei. That you direct like an expert maestro that you are. So, let's start giving some context to these words. So we start with our artist, our narrator, Mia Martini, telling us her point of view in this relationship. So what is happening in the relationship? Every night, she is not going to know, she can't know what to expect from her lover. So we start with a very clear concept. This is not a safe relationship because the other person involved in this relationship is unpredictable, which is one of the more common and also problematic aspects in a relationship. It is one of the first red flags you can see, feel, and whatnot. So we have our Mia Martini waiting every night, not knowing what is going to happen. And this waiting, it is an agony. So we start loud and clear. We have problems in this relationship. She would like to withdraw from this relationship. And in fact, she says too many times, I would like to tell you no. But there is an addiction. And in fact, this image, I guess, it can be very relatable for many people who had to deal with toxic mechanisms in relationships, because we have to imagine Mia Martini, she suffers every night, and after every night she says, no, next time is a no, next time he's going to show up, I am going to send him away, I'm going to finally break up. Then the guy arrives, and all the goodwill and faith fly away like leaves in the wind, because then she sees him, and all the strength that she needed to say no, oof, flies away. But again, we have this scene, she was ready, and all her strength disappeared, dissolved in a moment, and she has her heart saying, no, that is not good for us. But her body developed a sort of addiction to this relationship, and in fact, she says, my heart, which could be also the mind, so the spirit, okay, the soul, rebels against you. So like deep down, I know that this is not good for me. Rationally, I can tell that this relationship is a problem, it is hurting me. But my body developed an addiction. Of course, back in the 70s, they didn't, I'm not a psychologist, I'm guessing, concerning what I know when I studied criminal law, because of what happens if the relationship degenerates, because I know the part when you already arrive in the tribunal. And I guess that in the 70s, they didn't have all these researches showing that your body can get addicted, just like you can get addicted to nicotine, for example, or drugs, or I don't know, sugar. Your body can present the same symptoms of when it is addicted to substances when you are involved in toxic mechanics, so in problematic relationships. They didn't know, probably, but they didn't know how to call it. They weren't that scientific on these mechanisms, on this functioning of our bodies, but they pretty much knew that something was wrong and was feeling wrong. And in fact, concerning the body, we have this metaphor. Your hands, instruments on me. In this case, however, yes, instruments, strumenti in Italian, can be both the tools, okay, you use to work, but also the instruments you play in an orchestra. And this is most likely the case because in the second line we have che dirigi da maestro esperto quale sei. Now, maestro in Italian can be the maestro of an orchestra, but also someone expert in something. Like, for example, master degree, okay, comes from the same Latin root and from the same Latin meaning the word maestro in Italian comes from. And in fact, maestro, it is also the teacher, it's the masculine of the teacher in elementary school and until elementary school, so elementary school and kindergarten. Then after that, in middle school, high school, and so on, it becomes professore, professoressa, so professor. So, we have this double meaning of someone who knows exactly what he's doing, and also she feeling like an orchestra being directed by his hands. So there is this idea of feeling like a ragdoll, like just a puppet that has no will. So basically she's like, I am powerless. I don't know how to deal with this. And then we have the chorus. And the chorus, musically speaking, has a change, presents a change, because both the voice, so Mia Martini, and the music match an idea of extreme frustration and desperation. E vieni a casa mia, and you come to my house, quando vuoi, whenever you want, nelle notti più che mai, in the nights more than ever. Dormi qui, you sleep here, te ne vai, you go away, sono sempre fatti tuoi. It's always your business. Tanto sai, anyway, you know, che quassù, that up here, male che ti vada, worst it goes, avrai tutta me. You'll have all of me. Se ti andrà, if you want, if you will, per una notte, for one night. And here, in fact, the chorus perfectly matches, meaning-wise in the words, what it is expressed through the music and the performance of the singer, which is basically extreme frustration. Why? Because we have Mia Martini, our performer, venting concerning what is happening. So, e vieni a casa mia and you come to my house, it is basically the only thing that changes in the chorus, because the other chorus is the same. There is just a change in this first line, which serves as a little bridge between the verse and the chorus. So yeah. So, you come to my house whenever you want, in the nights more than ever. Why? Because during the night, usually you go to have intercourses with someone. Quando vuoi. Dormi qui, te ne vai, sono sempre fatti tuoi. He basically has total control over the terms of the relationship. Because he comes, she's not waiting for him, so he doesn't even have to tell her he's coming. It is basically like even more free than a hotel. So you come here whenever you want to have sex, basically. If you want, you sleep here. When you finish to sleep, you go away. You don't communicate with me. I have no agency. I have no control over this relationship because why you come, why you go, you are not going to tell me. Because sono sempre fatti tuoi, it's always your business. So it is basically hinting at the classic situation where, like, why are you leaving? It's none of your business. This is the idea of the exchange we can imagine from these lyrics. And this person can do that because he's perfectly aware about the fact that he has full control over this relationship. Because she says, anyway, you know that up here, because probably she's living in an apartment like on some elevated floor. So, anyway, you know that here in my apartment, here where I live, worst it goes, male che ti vada, you'll have all of me. Avrai tutta me. Se ti andrà per una notte. If you want for one night, because it is always about what he wants. And in fact, she says, male che ti vada, worst it goes, worst case scenario for him, like she is so worthless that she becomes the least he can have. She is like, having her is the bare minimum he can expect, which in a normal relationship, sharing like parts of your life, sharing intimacy, it is having access to a portion of a person that is incredibly worth. Like there is like you can't estimate the worth of such vulnerability of a person, because you are basically sharing a lot of their life. And this intimacy, this core part of Mia Martini becomes the bare minimum. So imagine the rest, because if this is the bare minimum, what can you give more than the whole of yourself? If the whole of yourself is the bare minimum. And what worth does anything else have if the best you can give is the bare minimum, is less than the minimum, is nothing? And then we have a bridge. E cresce sempre più, and it grows more and more, la solitudine, the loneliness, nei grandi vuoti che mi lasci tu, in the great voids that you leave me. So, here, as I was explaining in the beginning, it is very smart how the music is built. Because in this bridge, she is talking about loneliness. Because of course, he comes, he takes everything, he doesn't give anything back. So, of course, she feels lonely and empty. And in the performance, the orchestra, so the music, pulls back. And Mia Martini's voice is the only thing that is left in the song. Because in a very smart way, the composition of the song is reflecting the meaning. And this gives also a different perception of it. Because she is alone, even in the song, because she doesn't even have the instruments with her. She had the rage in the chorus. She needed to vent, she needed to scream, she needed to express this frustration. And she has the orchestra accompanying her with this. And then in the bridge, while she says, I am alone, I am empty, this is what the music also reflects. And in fact, we have just a position here because we have great voids. Usually, if something is empty, it is a bit the opposite of something great. But this is anything that is left, only a great void of nothingness. And then we have the second verse. Rinnegare una passione, no. Denying a passion, no. Ma non posso dirti sempre sì. But I can't always say yes to you. E sentirmi piccola così, and feel small like this, tutte le volte che mi trovo, every time I find myself, qui di fronte a te, here in front of you. Troppo cara la felicità, happiness is applied too dear or expensive, because in Italian this has a double meaning, per la mia ingenuità, for my naivety. Continuo ad aspettarti nelle sere, I keep waiting for you in the evenings, in the nights, per elemosinare amore, to beg for love. So once again, he comes to her and she's like, I don't want to deny you everything, because there are portions of this relationship I like. Probably since she's mentioning passion, she's probably referring to sex. But you can't always have me. I'm not always available. Like, I'm not just a prostitute you are not even paying. And in fact, once again, she says that the lover is in full control of this relationship, because she says, and I feel small like this every time you are in front of me. So probably every time you knock at my door. And then we have, as I was saying, troppo cara la felicità, because happiness, too expensive or dear is happiness, which is a very smart way to use this adjective, because cara, caro, cara here because la felicità is feminine. Dear, it can mean both dear, but also expensive. So there is this opposition which matches the idea of the relationship as well in only one word. And again, she's young, because which would also meet the criteria of the performer, because in the 73 she had like around 20 years old, if I remember correctly. She was around 20 years old. And once again, we have this image of her waiting during these very long nights, evenings, without even sleeping probably, because in the end she's hoping, she's waiting to have those breadcrumbs of relationship the guy is going to give her. And in fact, if we think about the verb elemosinare, to beg for, it comes from elemosina, which is the alms, which again comes from the late Latin elemosina, from the Greek elemosine, ancient Greek, which is derivated by the verb eleo, which means to have pity. So etymologically speaking, This, it also hints at have mercy on me. Okay? It's more mercy than pity because there is a difference in English. So it is like, please, I beg you, have mercy, give me some love, sort of situation. And in fact, once again, back in the 70s, probably they didn't have the psychological theory, but today we know that this behavior, it is called breadcrumbing, which is when someone gives just enough attention or affection to keep the other person emotionally invested without committing or offering anything substantial, which matches perfectly the description we had so far. And then we have the chorus with a little variation, because as I was saying, in the first chorus we have, and you come at my home. And we have this idea of this never-ending cycle of toxic behaviors and mechanics, because e vieni a casa mia e sono sempre tua. So once again, we are here doing the same thing. Like in the dance, Minuet, giving the name to the song. E sono sempre tua, and I'm always yours, quando vuoi, nelle notti più che mai, whenever you want, in the nights more than ever. Dormi qui, te ne vai, sono sempre fatti tuoi. You sleep here, you go away, it's always your business. Tanto sai che quassù, male che ti vada, avrai tutta me, se ti andrà per una notte. Anyway, you know that up here, worst it goes, you'll have all of me, if you want, for one night. And then we have another bridge. And in this part, we have the peak of the frustration expressed, vented in the song, because this bridge is performed by Mia Martini almost screaming. Sono tua, I am yours, la notte a casa mia, the night at my house. Sono tua, I am yours, sono 1000 volte tua, I am 1,000 times yours. So this thing already happened and keeps going for 1,000 times. And I am yours in my house, but you are not mine. I can't come to your home because maybe the guy was also having an affair. I don't know, because ideally, like, I'm not that informed concerning the gossip life of Mia Martini, but knowing things happening in Italy, I wouldn't be surprised. But again, like, she's basically being treated worse than a prostitute because she's not even getting paid. And then we have the third verse, which is also the last one. E la vita sta passando su noi, and life is passing over us. Di orizzonti non ne vedo mai. I never see the horizons. Ne approfitta il tempo, time takes advantage of it, e ruba, come hai fatto tu, and steals like you did, il resto di una gioventù, the rest of a youth che ormai non ho più, that I no longer have. E continuo sulla stessa via, and I continue on the same path, sempre ubriaca di malinconia, always drunk on melancholy. Ora ammetto che la colpa forse è solo mia. Now I admit that the fault is perhaps only mine. Avrei dovuto perderti, I should have lost you, e invece ti ho cercato. And instead I looked for you. So, basically, what she's saying here is that life is passing by. Nothing is changed because we are always caught in the same mechanisms over and over again. I don't see the horizon, so in this case, probably I don't see like an arrival, like an arrival point, a change, metaphorically speaking. And again, time passed by, and it is stealing away just like you did my youth. Now, here we could see it in several ways because first she's performing. She was 26-year-old. I found my note back concerning the age. I knew I put it somewhere. So she was 26 years old. Nowadays, mainly in Italy, if you are 26-year-old, you are quite young. Like a 26-year-old, basically you finish your master degree. I know a thing or two about it. So nowadays, you are not that old. You are pretty much starting your career and as your proper adult life. Now, it is also true that in the 70s it was much easier to start working. In fact, even Mia Martini started her career at like, what, 16 years old or something like that. Of course, you were able to start working much younger without competence, and in fact, it showed. But you could have done that. And of course, you were supposed to have children younger. Because before 30 years old, having already the first child wasn't that weird. Then, of course, with time nowadays, many people have the first child around 40 years old because sadly this is what you can afford. Sadly, you can't often get economical stability before 35 years old, and of course without financial stability it is always a risk to have children because you never know. Also because Italy doesn't help you with children like other countries like France. So of course it is a challenge to have children nowadays in Italy, and in fact it shows in the demographics. So back in the days, in the 70s, probably at 26 years old, you were supposed to be maybe already married and already having or like going for the first child. So it could make sense, but it can also be that simply Mia Martini was performing the story of this woman who basically wasted her life after this man. Would also be that, because it would be even more tragic, because she's basically saying, I know that I have no future. And it could also be like a prediction, because in the end, I know that I'm not going to get out of these toxic dynamics. And I'm saying this because in the second portion of the third verse, she says, and I continue on the same path, always drunk on melancholy. So like, despite everything, I know that I'll keep doing that. Why? Because this toxic relationship became like became an addiction. It is my emotional drug. And then she says something that matters. Ora ammetto che la colpa forse è solo mia. Now I admit that the fault is perhaps only mine. Why? Because I should have lost you. So, like, I should have left you. And instead I looked for you. And instead I kept chasing after you. Now, why is this important? Because, of course, in these dynamics, mainly when there is one person that has more control over the other, like in this case, of course, in these dynamics, is never only one person's fault. And this I hear, at least because of my cultural perspective, and also because even nowadays I see this happening. She is internalizing the responsibility, which is typical of people caught in toxic patterns, mainly for women. Because nowadays, sadly, in many countries, even in Europe, so technically developed countries, I often heard women, like grown ass women, my same age, or even more, I am 29 years old, saying, oh, but because it's normal, actually, all men are like this. I'm not exaggerating. I really heard like people convinced of this thing telling me, oh, yeah, but because men are all bad, they become good only if they find a good partner, a good woman making them good. And like I heard, because of course, the first thing that I say, no, look, this is a very dangerous, yes, the song is very complex. I always tell them, look, no, this is a very problematic conception you have. This is going to lead you towards many problems because, of course, you're going to basically become the meme. I can fix him. Like it is that. And every time I say, for example, my partner Alex always been good. Otherwise, we wouldn't be together. So he was already like this. He wasn't a piece of shit. And then when we met magically, he turned in the Prince Charming. And I swear to you, people answered me, but because you are a good woman and a good woman makes a good man. And I was like, I what what can I say? You are clearly not willing to listen. And sadly, it is still very common. Of course, this leads to very problematic relationships because, of course, it is like if you have a problem and you cannot have healthy relationships, it is your problem. And that's why we have psychologists nowadays. It is hard to have access to psychologists because sadly in Italy they cost quite a lot. That is true. But this is no excuse for pretending a partner, for demanding a partner that is going to fix you. Because this is not going to happen. Not even the psychologist can fix you. You have to recognize that you have a problem and then you can work on the problem with the therapist. Otherwise, like there is no way in the world that someone else is going to fix you. It has to come from you. But this is a very good example in this song of this internalized responsibility that she doesn't have. Because is it all the guy's fault? No, of course not. Because once again, in a relationship, you are two people. But of course, the majority of the responsibility falls on the person who has more control in this relationship. That in this case is the guy, because the guy, like the lover, has more control over her. It is him keeping to enforce this relationship. Of course, she has her responsibilities as well, because in the end, if some people are able to, I have the seagulls falling on the roof, okay? So basically, you have these dynamics where at certain point, the person with less control of the relationship just says, no, like, I'm getting the fuck out. It can happen. However, this is most likely to change if the person with more control over the relationship is the one who's breaking up, of course. But it is a very complex matter. If you have relational issues, go and see a psychologist or a therapist. And then we end with the outro. So I just took these 4 lines because the idea of the outro is that according to different versions, Mia Martini repeats them in different orders. So sometimes she takes only 3 of them, only all 4 of them, only 2, she's mix and matching them, but basically in the outro she always repeats these 4 lines. Minuetto suona per noi, minuet play for us. La mia mente non si ferma mai, my mind never stops. Io non so l'amore vero, che sorriso ha. I don't know what smile true love has. Pensieri vanno e vengono, la vita è così. Thoughts come and go, life is like that. So, why in modern love songs we often have, thankfully, a changing in the last part of the song or in the second part of the song, here there is no changing. There is no change. There is just the minuet that keeps repeating over and over again until we reach the distraction. In fact, as I was saying in the introduction, the minuet, this French dance, is characterized by elegant but repetitive steps, and it becomes a metaphor for this choreographed pattern of advanced and retreat, so like push and pull. Grace masking dysfunction because, of course, we have the love story. But in the end, we are always circling back to the same place because, as I was saying, is the concept is pretty much the same of the valser. Now, my mind never stops. This might be hinting to a cognitive overload because, of course, this type of relationship destroys you mentally. Probably it is also related to the idea described where she says, oh my God, I never know if you are coming, when you are coming, why do you leave? So, of course, you pretty much live in a status of paranoia that never stops. But as I was saying, in modern pop songs, at least we have the breaking of the cycle. So at certain point we have the performer, the artist, expressing the end of the relationship. In some cases, even the fact that they recovered from these problematic patterns. There are, of course, people who keep repeating the patterns. We also have that. But at least nowadays we have more good endings. Okay. Here it is the bad ending 101 starter pack, because she ends saying pensieri vanno e vengono, thoughts come and go. La vita è così. Life is like that. And this is resigned lucidity. And she says, oh, well, I am destroying myself. Happens to the best of us. Let's keep going. Yeah, it is considered a masterpiece, absolutely, rightfully so. Also because it was how can I say? It was calling out a problem that was not discussed at all at the time. Because the problem back in the days, and you can easily see it by confronting with songs from the same period, that this idea of love, oh, the push and pull, oh my god, I feel the butterflies in my stomach, oh my god, I never know what to expect. Like, nowadays we know that these are quite problematic things, but even back in the days, people knew that something wasn't right, because in the end you can make full-on theories, psychological theories, but you are able to do so because deep down your body is trying to tell you, chill, like that is not okay, that is hurting us. But back in the days it was always, oh my god, that's a love story, oh my god, so cute, love so nice. I never see my husband, like I see my husband like only once a week, but oh my god, we are so much in love. Here she did something like Mia Martini and Califano, because of course Mia Martini performed masterfully this song, but Califano wrote it. And the story she's telling, it's something that was considered a scandal back in the days when it was published, because a woman in Italy saying that like her lover is destroying her life, it is her fault. It is her fault, because option A, you are a shitty woman, you can't fix your man. Or option B, you are a shitty woman because you picked someone who cannot be fixed and you should have chosen better. Like, this is what many people thought, and sadly some still think. But it was like this. A woman in the 70s complaining that it was also the fault of her lover if the relationship was going like that, because she's saying, I can stop it, but why can't you as well? Like, what can I do? Like, help me. And the guy is like, not my problem, lol. And she's like, but that's not fair. I'm in pain. And in fact, like the audience, it was of course very appreciated, but many people complain like, oh my god, cry me a river, if you really think that is your own fault, like it's on you. If this is happening to you, you deserve it, because you are not a good enough woman. So nowadays, this type of storytelling, it is very common. Luckily, in pop songs and love songs generally, we are having more and more the healthy ending, like the good ending, saying, okay, that's not good for me, I'm going to break up. Or like, I miss you, but I'm also aware that our relationship wasn't working, so it is better like that. I'll have to overcome the ending of our relationship. I'm already doing it. I did it. We also have some songs that are like, oh my god, nothing changed. But we also have, at least nowadays, a good bunch of songs that are like, we are getting better. Slowly but surely getting there. Back in the days, it was like, oh my god, how dare you say something like that? It was like a scandal, this song. But it was very on point. It also gives a good perspective of how Italy used to be in the 70s. And also it provides us a song we can compare to nowadays song to get some hope, thinking, okay, things get better in the end. We are going somewhere. Not always, but sometimes we are getting better. And in fact, this song was always pretty much a prophecy for poor Mia Martini, because Mia Martini died quite young in the end. So first of all, Mia Martini, whose real name was, and yeah, I say was, sadly, Domenica Rita Adriana Bertè, sister of Loredana Bertè, who had her fair share of very problematic relationships as well, probably is related to the relationship they had in the family. It is said that both Mia Martini and Loredana Bertè didn't have very good relationship with their father. And incredibly so, they had several issues in relationships with men throughout their whole life. Loredana Bertè survived, Mia Martini didn't. And in fact, Mia Martini was born in 1947 and died in 1995, so when she was around 40 years old. Quite young. The issue is that she had a health issue, a very problematic one. There are speculations on what it was, but again, like medicine changes as well and improves. She had a degenerative disease, I guess, causing her a lot of pain. She was abusing painkillers, and of course, that kept worsening her health condition. And she was found dead while touring. The doctors said that she had to stop touring because she was putting too much effort, these many things she was doing were taking a considerable toll on her body. Probably her mental state was completely gone. And she died. Usually when you check, the official version is she died of heart attack. Yes, technically that was the reason, but then they found, because then I don't remember if it was Loredana Bertè who asked for the autopsy or who it was, but someone asked to check her, and they found massive doses of a cocktail of drugs, like methamphetamine plus cocaine plus something else. So yeah, technically she died of a heart attack. If we want to be more transparent concerning her mental health status, she died of overdose. Because we can call it heart attack, but when the heart attack is due to the abuse of substances, usually you say that someone died of overdose. And some, in fact, say that, to be even more correct, she took her own life. Again, it was a very borderline situation because they found her dead in a room while she was listening to music she had to work on for the tour she was doing. So yeah, technically it wasn't really suicide. However, her mental health status wasn't the best. She was addicted to substances. She was high on substances, and she had a heart failure. It is a very complicated situation, not gonna lie. So probably the reason why this song became so famous was because it was performed by someone who knew what she was singing about, who experimented it, like had experience, direct experience in it. So that was pretty much everything I had to say concerning Minuetto by Mia Martini. She was a brilliant artist. She had, in fact, like one of the prizes of Sanremo has her name. She also had, however, a tragic life, and it shows, and it showed in her works. That said, I hope you enjoy this analysis. Let me know in the comments what you think about this song. Grazie everyone for watching and arrivederci.